Grand rising to everybody out there. I just had the feeling to come on, drop a little, you know. I was just thinking, bless up, Elder. Bless up, man. Bless up. Happy New Year to you and your family. God bless you and your family. God bless you on this year. God bless you this morning. And we're going to crack a lot of eggs this year, and we're going to crack the ceiling, and we're going to keep going. Because I got to break through this month and early this year. And if I'm correct without looking on the date, I think we are in January 6th. Now, I think it's the 5th or the 6th, but I was talking to my older brother the other day, and I'm going to show the picture on YouTube. I think I was 7 years old and my brother was 9 years old. Man, open-minded, thank you for putting it out there, because I tell my brother and I tell other people, I always like to give the respect of real in this universe, not to a human, but to life itself. And I told my brother, I said, yeah, ain't that much people on YouTube from New York that really be kicking stuff. Everybody kicking the street stuff. And we're used to that. I told my brother, I said, you something different, because I love souls in this world, and I love when somebody could elevate me to a higher level than I think I'm on, because I have no faults in not knowing something. If I don't know, I'm not afraid to ask. I'm never afraid to ask, because I'm brave enough to tell people I don't know something, and I'm brave enough to want to know things that I shouldn't know in this world. If you have yesterday, you're going in today, but you don't really know what's tomorrow. And I take it back to times when the teacher used to give us a test, and they gave us in elementary school, we had 10 words. I remember I used to go home, and some of the easy words that was probably 5-letter words, I used to practice them by myself. So the words that was 6 letters and more, I used to sound them out with my brother, and he used to help me, where I'm going to spell a half of it and he spelled a half. But at the end of the day, I had to spell both words to go back to school to do that test, And I remember, it's just like, I'm going to use a example, something. I would spell some and he would spell thing. But at the end of the day, I had to put both of those words together to remember. Me and him studying for my spelling bee, or my spelling test as we call it in the 90s, growing up in New York City public schools. A lot of times, I passed a lot of spelling tests, and from like 1st grade all the way to probably 4th grade, I wouldn't say like super smart, but I was very wise in certain things in school, and I would give that to my brother, because I was the little brother, and I used to follow a lot of things he did, because he was my big brother. And when you're a little kid growing up, you don't care what nobody say. You follow your siblings more than you follow your mother and father, And the reason why I like the truth is, yeah, you respect your mother and father, but as siblings, y'all follow each other. Y'all ride or die for each other. Y'all help each other out, and this is why I don't get it when I see brothers and sisters war with each other, fight with each other. I'll be honest. Me and my brother get into an argument or whatever. He could be wrong. I could be wrong. I'm gonna tell you like this. At the end of the day, I learned that I'll take the blame for both of us. You know, I'll take the blame for both of us, because there's nothing in this world I could ever do to repay my brother back for being a big brother. You know, I remember when I was a teenager, I had a time where, I'm gonna be real, I don't like when people lie. I thought I was probably one of the smartest people in the world. You know, and that was my ego. You know, that was my ego. And remember when I got in my 20s, like I think 23 years old. Like, I was asking my brother a lot of things. And one thing I remember I asked him about was King Arthur and the Knights. Because we used to watch the cartoon, you know, and I seen different documentaries of King Arthur and some movies that they made, you know, because I like medieval times and I like stuff like King Arthur, you know, and a lot of those medieval movies. I like history, you know, like I like history, just to be plain and simple, you know, and to be blunt. You know, I like things to elevate me and make me learn, and even if I'm learning, it could hit somebody else, because that's the way it's supposed to be, you know? So I remember asking my brother about King Arthur and Robin Hood it was, excuse me. And this is why I always say certain things and almost everything when, and this is not random, but this is just going into the same thing, you know? An elder once told me, ignorant people ain't gonna learn from nothing, but wise people learn from everything. And as I say, when somebody tell you something that's wise or cool for the world or profound, you may not get it at the moment they give it to you. But when you realize and you understand it years later or days later or even minutes later, that's when the hammer hits the steel. And that's when it's forged for you to understand what they told you. You know, because you know how steel is hot. And that's like your mind. Somebody tell you something, depending on how you intake it, it could formulate to many different scenarios in your mind. Just like the steel. You take the hot steel out from the coal and you hammer it. You're turning this into a hammer, a chisel that's in my hand, a knife, you know, a cup, a plate, many different things. And this is where I'm going to take it back to where you're learning your emotions. You may have anger of somebody telling you something. You may have calmness. You may have stillness. You may have fire, you know? And to get back to me and my brother, the elder telling us, and even my brother telling me about the King Arthur, and I didn't know that he knew about it like that. I knew he knew, but I didn't know he knew in depth. So that's when, and I'm gonna be honest to you, I always had respect for my brother, and I still do, and I always will. I didn't think he knew about it, you know? I know he knew about the cartoons and the movies and the documentaries we watched about King Arthur and Robin Hood and stuff, because we grew up watching some of the same stuff. You know, the music was the same, but when it came to dancehall and rap, that's when certain things changed with me and my brother, with dancehall and rap, but we were still in the same house listening to the same music, to be honest. Yeah, we 2 years apart always, and I don't care, man. That's my, that's my big bro. Never, that's my brother. I love him. Shout out to you, T. 114 TD always. Now, I remember like thinking, in my 20s, I'm like, Dad, my brother's sharp. And that's when I had to realize where us as little siblings, sometimes we do step over bounds in thinking that we could not be better than our big siblings, but we possibly think that we know more than them. And when my brother was telling me stuff about the King Arthur and Robin Hood, I was kind of a little surprised, but it made me realize the order, of things where some people will fly past their place and you can't, like, the way certain people was raised, and I ain't talking about being raised in the ghetto, I'm talking about being raised in this world. You don't disrespect what's older than you and what's here before you. Because what's older than you and here before you, whether people may think this is corny, laid the foundation for you. Okay? And this is why I always say people are ungrateful. Because without them, how could you possibly know what you know in certain areas? I'm not going to say without them it wouldn't be you, but without them, how would you know what you know in certain areas? So that's why I bring the spelling bee up. Because I remember when I was in elementary school and couldn't spell certain words, even doing my homework. And I had to ask my brother to sound out words for me, helping me with my homework. I could think back, how helpful that was? Like some people take money and jewelry and gold and materialistic things, but to me, that right there, that's a jewel, that's a gift, that's something that's timeless. And this is like, some people always say like the little things that count, right? And this is why I always tell people, do you say that just to sound good in front of people or do you actually mean it? Okay? Because something little as, for example, I had a lot of friends and family members that went to prison or jail or what you call it. And I remember when some of them came home, males and females. Shout out to the females, because you little nasty males out here always free my homie, free my guy. But I always say, don't matter what color or religion or race it is, you never really hear these men out here talk about free a lady that's in jail too. What you want, to free men? What do you want? What do you think, that only men go to jail and that is your main point? No. Universally, jail is not a male-dominated thing. Jail is universal for everybody that they created. So when I hear the sick joint of a lot of people always, free my homie, free my guy, free my boy. That's why the mentality is in jail. And this is why I say that a lot of so-called street dudes that call themselves street dudes, something is really wrong with their mental. Because if a lot of people don't want to admit it, I'm going to keep on saying it. A lot of these males that y'all think are street dudes are down with this LGBT community. And one thing that I don't like about the hood is the hood don't like to teach. Cause they rather you be stupid and foolish and just keep on wasting generations. Okay? Like, me and my brother was there having a talk the other day. And like I say, sometimes like I like to challenge him when we talk about certain things, like as in, you know, like the planets, like Earth, like, birds, I like to challenge him in certain things, and he challenged me as well, to the point where I remember the last conversation we had, my brother really made me challenge my mind and think, you know? And I like that because, some people will think that just because somebody is your brother and sister, they must go for everything that you say when y'all having a conversation. No. You must, it's not no negative and positive, but it's different viewpoints, okay? And if you're thinking that your viewpoint will only be correct, you're mistaken. So that's why I like to have conversations with people that could take it there. Like, I don't care about your basic conversation. What is your basic conversation going to do for you, me, or anybody else? And a lot of people in my life used to get offended with that, and they still do, but it's true. Everybody can have a basic conversation. What is a basic conversation going to solve? Nothing. Okay? It ain't going to solve nothing. And that's why I don't really conversate with many people, because many people just have nothing really too much good to talk about, or what they're talking about, it solves nothing. And it's like in the projects when we was growing up. The incinerator that opens up and goes straight down? That's what it is. Okay? It's going straight down to the basement. Okay? It's going straight down to the basement. And I wouldn't say you're not learning nothing, because you will learn to kind of stay away from conversations like that, because it's low frequency. Like, I hate when people talk about stuff that doesn't turn nothing around. You're going to be having a conversation about the same basic thing, and nothing is going to change. Nothing. So, it'd be sad, and I see a lot of things with a lot of people, east, west, north, and south. Like a lot of people be local, right? But I'm going to say this. Jah made this universe, and with the people in this world that spares the light, you was never local, because you run all barriers around this world. Humans play games where, I'm from Jamaica, I'm from Brooklyn, it ain't nothing. Yeah, I love Bronx, I love Brooklyn, I love New York, I love the Caribbean islands, but you know what? It's bigger than that. Okay? And I remember I used to hope that many people wake up, right? But the reality is, some people have to stay sleeping, and they will stay asleep, because certain things you can't force. And within many of these people, you can't force them to change. They must really want it. And I see a lot of people, they don't want it. That's why I look at certain things of not wasting my conversation or my energy on people. Cause running this world, how would you love this world? How would you treat this world? I'm gonna end it in saying this. It's 2026. I wish more people would see the world in a different way and not how you want to see it for your own greed. God bless. Rastafari Elder, thank you very much. I appreciate you. I thank you everybody else that joined this live too. You know, we're going to keep on working. And we're going to keep on opening doors. We're going to keep on opening rounds. We're going to keep on opening dimensions. We're going to keep on opening portals. The physical have to stay back, and it's time for the spiritual to be awoken. You know, it's time for the spiritual to wake up always, because if you think that what we call the physical realm is going to keep on taking control of what it can't hold and take control of itself, this would all be over. God bless. Rastafari, lion love.